this congregation here has always been very special to me. And so it has been my privilege to be here this weekend and to spend time with many of you. And I just want you to know that right off the top, thank you so very much for 40 years of faithful service in your giving and your prayers. I don't think it's been exactly 40 years, because I think the first time I came was after my first furlough. So it's awfully close to 40 years if it isn't. And words, there just are not enough words. You have no idea what it has meant to me. I look at other missionaries who are with other mission agencies where they don't have to raise their own support, that they're funded, and I'm thinking they miss out on so much. The blessings I get from just being a part of your community, of your church, is so much more. And so I want to thank you. If I could give you all presents, I would, but I can't. But just know that the Lord has really worked in and through you as you have so faithfully given to the ministry that he called me to. So with that, I would like to start a slide presentation, because many of you probably do not have any idea who I am. Who is this lady up here talking to us? So I want to give you kind of a summary of my time with World Venture. I'm with World Venture, which formerly was Conservative Baptist Foreign Mission Society. Okay, I was appointed in Fort Collins in 1981, and the picture here, I'm in the middle. Just last Christmas, we had a conference in Malta, and these are some of the people who were appointed with me at that same time. Many of our people have since either retired or gone to other places. I heard that Larry Stuckey was here just recently, and he was appointed in the next class after mine. So we were not appointed at the same time. But we're a really close-knit group. Interestingly enough, the couple and the guy in the orange shirt and his wife next to him, he's the president of Denver Seminary now, and they were in Austria. The ones just to the other side of me are Peter and Celeste. They retired 2 years ago from Austria, and he is now at the home office as the prayer director. And the guy on the other end is Bruce Swanson, and he and his wife Lori were in Portugal, and he is now at the home office as well. So we've got lots of people that have gone through our class that are now what I call mucky mucks, the big wigs at the home office. So anyways, that was a real fun time. Okay. All right, the first place I went was Ivory Coast, West Africa, Bouake, Ivory Coast, West Africa. You probably remember I came and tried to teach you how to say Côte d'Ivoire, and I still hear it very strangely, but that's okay. I taught 5th and 6th grade at that time, and it was a combined class of 5th and 6th graders. And I was in Côte d'Ivoire for 17 years at the school. The school, it was a boarding school, and it was predominantly for kids of missionaries. We had a student body of about 300 students. Not all of them, but the majority of them, I would say 95% of them, actually were boarding. So they lived in dorms. I had my own place, so I didn't have to live in the dorm as well. But my favorite memories of that is you really get up close and personal with your students because you live in the same place they live. And I can remember thinking once when we went on vacation, I can't get away from these kids because every time I go on vacation, they go on vacation on the same place, But fortunately, they're parents' problems when we're on vacation. But it was a really good start for me. Basically, at this point in time, when I was appointed by World Venture, I did not have a call to missions. Basically, I had a call to obedience. And that obedience took me to Cote d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, West Africa. I learned that God gives each one of us skills and abilities and talents to use wherever he wants us to go. And for some of us, that means out of the United States. For some of you, it'll be right across the street. Now that I'm thinking of retirement, for me, it's the same thing, okay? What ministry is God calling me to now? But at the time, I couldn't imagine having to live in Ivory Coast if I had to work with the Nationals, just because I didn't want to live in a mud hut. But God blessed me at this school. I have very close friends there. I was blessed to be able to experience a totally different culture than the one that I had come from. So I did have to learn French, because French was the national language, and that was not fun. But, you know, it helped me later when I was learning Spanish, which we'll get to the next slide. Caracas, Venezuela, I was actually there for 3 years. As you can tell, I got out of teaching. I kind of got burned out at the 17 years I was in Ivory Coast. And so I was the guidance counselor, the registrar, the recruitment coordinator. The two slides with the traffic is I was there during the year when we had a national strike that went from November through February, where everything shut down. These are demonstrations happening in the streets. Some of them are for the president, some of them are against the president, and one night we had a triple coup. We went to bed with President Chavez as president. We woke up with Chavez as president, but in the meantime, we had two presidents. We'd had Carmona and Cabeza. And it was a very interesting time to be in Ivory Coast. In Venezuela. I had to move apartments at that time. There were no moving companies that could help me. So we had to find someone who had a truck. And it took 3 days to move a very short distance, because we always got jammed up by marches and demonstrations. So it was a very interesting time. But again, I loved the people there. And I had gone with the idea of putting down roots. This is going to be where I'm going to stay. I felt more confident in Spanish than I ever had in French. But as it happens, when the marches started and the coup happened, we could not tell when we had closed down the school for Christmas vacation, and we could not tell the parents if or when we would open back up again. So because a lot of these were missionary kids from North America, their parents wisely chose to pull them out and take them back to the States, because if they missed a half a year of school, they only got credit for a half a year. So most of them would have been behind and not able to graduate. So we lost practically all of our high school students as a result of that. And as you can tell, I was the high school guidance counselor. Well, if I have no kids to work with, then I'm pretty much out of a job. And so the school board decided not to renew my contract after that. And so I had to come home to the States to figure out, where am I going next? And that was a journey in and of itself. Anyone that's ever gone looking for a job knows that it's the worst thing in the world. And I remember talking to one other World Venture missionary, Sherry Henderson. Her and her husband, Dave, had left Indonesia and gone to Russia. And I said to her, Sherry, how do you know where God is directing you next? Because you have all these opportunities open up in front of you. And she said, Janet, what you have to do is you have to figure out where your gifts and skills are going to be used the most, and then just go there. And if that's not where you're supposed to be, God will direct you away. So as I prayed about where I was to go next, I actually, as a recruitment coordinator, my booth, we went to college fairs and things like that, and my booth was always right next to the booth from VCS, or Vienna Christian School. And I got to have a relationship with their recruitment coordinators. And so when they heard that I was on the lookout for a school, they literally pursued me. It was like I couldn't get away from them. You need to come to Vienna. You need to come to Austria. And so that's exactly what happened. It wasn't my first choice because I thought God would take me to a country where they spoke some form of Latin language, because I'd had Spanish and I'd had French. German is nothing like that. And so I was not really excited to go to a country that was cold, where they spoke a language that was impossible to speak and learn, but that's where God led me. So for the last 16 years, go ahead, I've been it started out Vienna Christian School, but then they changed it to the International Christian School of Vienna in Vienna, Austria. And these are not MKs. These are TCKs, which are third culture kids. In Austria, most of the kids that come to our school are there because their parents are either with the United Nations, because Vienna is a United Nations spot. So they're either with UN, or they're with the World Bank, or they're usually not one of the embassies, because we don't get the embassy kids. But, and some of them, their parents have come there from Asia or whatever. I don't have specific grades up there, but I taught middle school. Anywhere, it was 6, 7, and 8. But in the course of my time there, I taught practically every subject except for science, and I told them, you will never ask me to teach science if you want your kids to learn anything, because I apologize to those of you who like science. I never did. The science experiments never worked, and so to try and teach it to a kid. Well, so I was also the testing coordinator, which meant that I was in charge of all the standardized testing there for the entire school, which was 300 students. If you see a picture of me, that's called our Hall of Flags. That's the entrance to the school. And we have a flag represented for all of the countries that our students represent. So you can see there are quite a few flags there. We have a student body of a little over 300, and we have at least 60 countries represented. All the education and all the teaching is done in English. We offer, as an elective, Spanish. As a requirement, they have to take German, because a lot of these kids come and German is not their first language, because they were not raised in Austria. So, but they have to learn German. I had to learn German too, which was not fun. But anyways, I also took charge of all of the college entrance exam testing, such as the SAT and the PSAT and the ACT, and I'm throwing out these acronyms, and if you've had high school kids recently, you know what they mean. But they are college entrance tests. Now, there's not a reason for me to be a testing coordinator, because they're tailoring their tests so that kids either don't have to take them or they take them at home, and it's all digital. And that's been since COVID. But my last year there at the school, my plans were always to come back and do furlough 2021 from January to June, and then go back for my last full year at ICSV, and then to retire. However, that was not the plan that God had for me. And so I want to just read a very familiar verse to you. It's Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord. And so he knew exactly what was in my future and what his plan for me was. And his plan was not for me to retire at 70, but for me to retire at 69. And so the next slide, I had to come home in September of 2020 because I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And it was causing me, the only symptom I have was I shuffled. I could not walk without shuffling. And everyone kept saying, Jan, you need to go get this checked out. And I'm like, no, it'll go away. I'm of the mindset, if you ignore it, it'll go away. That didn't work. So I went to a neurologist. I figured it was a neurological thing. And so I went to a neurologist. And unfortunately, I also went on Google, which they tell you never to do. And I looked up shuffling, what causes of shuffling. And it was Parkinson's, MS, or a brain tumor. And I said to my sister, how strange is it that I'm praying for a brain tumor? Because I didn't want either one of the Parkinson's or MS because those are long-term. But if it's a brain tumor, the tumor can be removed and I can go back to normal. Well, as normal as I've ever been. But it actually was, in fact, a brain tumor. And I spent an hour and 45 minutes in an MRI machine, and they took all kinds of pictures, with the dye and without the dye for the contrast. And I had several people look them over, and all they said was, you need to get this taken care of immediately. This is serious. There is a tumor there. And so I didn't want to have anything medical done in Austria. I do not trust the medical professionals there. I never have. And because as an American, we're always pretty proactive with our health, And so we want to know. We ask questions because we want to make informed decisions. But if you question a doctor there, he or she thinks you are questioning their capability, their competency. And so they'll be very brusque with you. And on top of that, I could not speak fluent German. So it was really difficult for me to go through that time. So I had 2 different people look at my slides, and they both said the same thing. And in my heart, I was not convinced that I shouldn't come home to the States. So World Venture has international medical consultants that they use. And so I contacted them, and they had a picture of my scans, and I said, I would like to have this done in the States. Is there any reason why I can't fly home and get it done? And at that time, I'd heard about Barrow Institute, which is one of the most prestigious brain neurological institutes in the United States. And it's in Phoenix. And I was flying home to Phoenix. So we made it arranged so that I only had one up and one down in my flight because we didn't know what pressurized airs and the takes off and the landings would do. And so my friend drove me to Frankfurt, where I got on a Lufthansa flight that was direct to Los Angeles. When I got off at Los Angeles, my nephew and his wife picked me up and drove me to Phoenix. I was still shuffling, and they were very, very shocked at how I was. Because, I had to have a cart in front of me at all times, and even or little walker. And even at that, it was very difficult. Because I'm leaning forward, I'm shuffling. And so the problem with getting into Barrows is it's a referral. You have to be referred by someone. And my primary care person had left his practice to go work at Mayo Clinic. And so I had to come up with and I didn't have a primary care doctor then. And so I couldn't get anyone to refer me. And not only that, all my reports were in German. And I'd have all these medical reports translated into English, which I didn't even know where to start with that. So I prayed about it some more. And this is just the graciousness and the hand of God. He prompted me to say, what would happen if I would go to St. Joseph's, which is where Barrows is, and went to the emergency room. I said, if you go to the emergency room, they have to treat you. So that's what we did. We went to the emergency room at St. Joseph's, and the doctor looked at me there, and he immediately sent me to Barrows. So that was my referral. And I got into Barrows, and I was there. And on September 14th, I had my first brain surgery. And while I was in the hospital, that's my hospital bed there, and you can see it says happy birthday. I was in the hospital on my birthday. And then I had a second brain surgery to insert a drain. They never did put a shunt in, but they put the drain in. And while I was in the hospital, and I'm not exactly sure when because they couldn't tell me, I had 2 strokes. So all the recuperation that I've been having to do is really as a result of the strokes, not as a result of the brain surgery. But the doctor told my sister that he was shocked when he actually got inside my brain. It's such a wonderful brain. No, he said it was so far worse than we anticipated. And they had seen all the slides, all the pictures. He said, I was surprised she was not comatose. So God had really protected me the entire way. I mean, even to bring me to that point. And I had another nurse. Well, she was in charge of all the nurses. And they had met together, and they said, Janet will never live independently again. And that was a real blow to me, because I'd been independent all my life. And while I was in the hospital, I had also developed blood clots. And I had 1 in my brain and 1 in my lungs and 2 in my legs. Any of them that could have taken me at any time. And so I talked to my sisters and my family, and I said, you have to be prepared for this. And fortunately, World Venture makes us do a will before we go overseas. And so I had upgraded my will. And I said, you guys need to look that over. And I said, I want you to know if this is my time to go. I have no regrets. I have lived a very full and a very exciting life. And it'll just be even more exciting to be with Jesus. But I did have to take time to mourn, because my life as I knew it would not be the same from then on. Fortunately, those blood clots dissolved the minute I started on the medication that was supposed to dissolve them, so I never had an issue with those. And I just feel very blessed. I mean, my recuperation has been so much. I really, truly believe I am a walking miracle. One thing after another. It was miraculous that I was able to get on a flight. It was miraculous that I was able to get into Barrows. And I told the surgeons there before they worked on me, I said, I don't know if you are men of faith or not. I said, but there are people literally all around the world who are praying for you right now. And I said, so do what you do best. And I was very fortunate to have extremely competent surgeons. So what the final outcome is I do live independently. It took me a long time to get a driver's license, because my driver's license expired while I was in the hospital on my birthday. And Oregon did not do, they didn't do online renewals. And I thought, well, I'm going to be living in Arizona anyway, so I might as well get an Arizona driver's license. But they're one of those states where you have to declare if you've had a stroke. And so I had to have a medical paper filled out by a medical competent person. And the problem is, my rehabilitation doctor did not want to sign anything, because he hadn't seen me in the 4 months since I'd been in outpatient. And my other doctor did not want to sign it. So finally, my primary care doctor said that he would sign it. So he went through all the tests, and he signed the papers. And I went to the Arizona Motor Vehicle Department. Do you know they didn't even look at him? and I said to her, I said, okay, I have had 2 strokes. I want to be right up front with you. And I said, but I have the medical papers saying that I'm okay to drive. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. Well, I was worried about it. So, but anyways, and then once I got my driver's license, then I needed to get a car. And I've told others, this is kind of funny. In my mind, I wanted a cayenne orange Chevy Spark, which, if you know anything, they're just these little cars. But that, again, is not one that God had planned for me. That was not my plan. That was my plan, not his plans. And what he had picked out for me is a white Ford Escape. And every time I go by colored cars or little cars, I have color car envy and color car envy. But it serviced me well, and I know my family are very, very thankful that I didn't get the little car. The art teacher at ICSV wrote back, he said, spray paint, ? But anyways, so now I'm living totally on my own, independent. I'm living in a retirement community. Where is Mary? We figured out that I'm in the exact same place her mother was. So, and I have a nice little 1-bedroom apartment, but I'm used to a huge 3-bedroom apartment. And when I left Austria, I never thought I was not going back. And so, I didn't pack things like Band-Aids and flashlights, and things that you might need. And because I'm on blood thinner, when you cut yourself, you got to make sure that you take care of it. Well, I was cooking, and I cut my finger, and it bled like crazy, and I didn't even have a Band-Aid to put on it. I had to go meet my neighbor next door to get a Band-Aid, but it's those little things. Can you put up the prayer request now, please? Thank you. These are my prayer requests, and they kind of tell you a little bit about my future. Okay, my 1-year surgery mark is September 14th, so it's coming soon. Pray for continued good health and recovery. I still have the tumor. I still have part of the tumor in my head. It was so calcified, it was like a rock, and the doctor couldn't remove all of it without doing irreparable damage to me. So he left a shell there. And there is cancerous material in the shell, but it is not malignant. And there's no plans right now to go in and try and take out the rest of it, because, like he said, it's just too dangerous. So there are 3 options. The first one is my favorite, obvious. It's the wait and see method, because he said this has to have been a very slow growing tumor, because it was so badly calcified. So he said, if it hasn't, we might as well wait and see. The second option is they can take me and put me and do radiation on the cancer that's in the shell, because they can pinpoint right where it is. And the third option is to go in for another surgery and try and get the remaining shell, but it would be a sitting up surgery, where I am sitting up and he's going in from the back of my skull to it, because my tumor was pretty much center. And my choice was the first one, obviously, the wait and see. And I've had several MRIs. The last MRI I had was in January, and he said there was nothing of consequence there that we needed to be worried about. I can imagine I'll probably have another one soon in September, but he hasn't scheduled it with me yet to see what has happened since then. But I do pray for continued good health and recovery. At times I think I I think my sisters and my brothers see me as damaged. And so because I'm not as quick on my feet, I still shuffle a little, especially when I'm tired. But it's not like it was before. I'm not real confident in my speech, but I'm not having to stop and think about what I'm saying. All those mental things that when they do with the brain happen. Unfortunately, all of my senses have been affected, and this obviously from the stroke more so than from the brain trauma. And so nothing tastes the same to me. Everything tastes wonky. And so I was telling Robin and Derek, maybe I should try food that I hated before, and it might taste good because the stuff that I loved just doesn't taste the same. So fortunately, candy still tastes good. But music, I've always loved music. But I can't hear harmonies. And I can't hear myself sing. So it all sounds the same to me. And there are times when I know I've heard an exceptional, choir song or something like that I've heard in the past, and I knew that they had done such a fantastic job on it. And it just didn't, it sounded strange. And I can remember one time in church leaning over to my sister Diane and said, "Is Neil singing flat? Neil never sings flat." He's the choir director at Palmcroft, and she goes, "No, that piece of music is discordant like that." But, I'm not hearing some of those things. And I don't know why that is, but I'm hoping that my enjoyment and love of music will come back. My stroke doctor told me that most things do come back after about a year. So that leads me to my next, I'm stopping in between the prayer requests. That leads me to the next thing, is that I am really hoping that in a year I'll be able to hear again, taste again, not have such sensitivity, so that I can really enjoy life. Okay, the biggest thing is all of my stuff is still in Austria. So pray that I can return to Austria with two friends of mine, Celeste and another friend who is a woman. Her name is Jake. They both have retired from Austria, and they know what it takes to close down after being in a country for so long. And because of COVID, at this present time, Austria is not open. So I can get in because I still have a residence there, and I still have a residence visa that's current. They do not. So I can go in, but nobody wants me going by myself. They just don't think it's a good idea. So our plans, hopefully they're God's plans, hopefully he's directed our minds in this thinking, is to go the last week of August, the first 2 weeks of September. Their schedules are clear enough that they can take that time off and go back and pack up all of my stuff. I'm using a shipment company that does door-to-door. So they'll go in and they'll pack everything up for me so I don't have to pack. I don't even have to take things off of the wall. I don't even have to take knickknacks off of the table. If I have dirty dishes in the sink, they'll pack up the dirty dishes. But anyways, it's important to me to be able to say goodbye to Austria and to my teammates there, and hopefully to some of the staff at the school and some of the students that I had. So that's probably my number one prayer request. The third one is that I will be an encouragement to everyone I meet. And I know that God has taken me through this to tell about his faithfulness to me. God doesn't put us through anything without there being a reason for it. And I want to read a verse from Psalms. It's Psalms 27, 13, and 14. "I will remain confident in this. I will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. And those are the verses that I have taken to be my verses from here on out. Another version said, I would have despaired had I not believed that I would see the goodness of God in the land of the living. And I think that is so true in my case as well. But I don't need to be discouraged. I don't need to be downhearted. God is with me. You know, it's the last one there is, this next one is for travels. This is only my second church in my tour of like 7 or 8 churches in the Northwest, and I'm driving back and forth across the mountains from Eastern Oregon to Western Oregon all the time. And then also that I will find a new ministry as I head into retirement. I don't want to just sit on the sidelines. But, you know, right now it's very popular, especially among millennials, to pick a word that they want to really focus on throughout the year. You know, and they'll pick a word and they'll say, okay, I'm going to do devotions on this word. I'm going to find scriptures on this word, you know, and I'll meditate on them. And if I were asked what word would I choose, my word is wait. But it's almost like it's hurry up and wait. You know, I am living in an instant society. You know, I eat microwave meals. If I can't have it in 5 minutes, it's not worth eating. You know, and so many times that translates into our spiritual lives too. We want instant Jesus. We want someone who's going to be there at a moment notice, and we're going to recognize him immediately as this is Jesus. And he asks us to wait, because when we wait, we have to trust in him that he knows what's right and what's best. So I don't want to pray for patience. No person in their right mind would ever pray for patience, because then God is going to give them trial and tribulation. But waiting is my word. But waiting doesn't have to be sedentary. It can be a very active thing. And so I have to wait for the results for my 1-year mark to find out what's going on inside my brain. I have to wait to see if I will be able to go back to Austria. I have to wait to see if I will ever get back to normal again. I have to wait to see if I can move into a larger home, which will allow me to have all of my furniture from Vienna with me. I have to wait to see what the Lord has planned for me in my future. So waiting is the word that I have chosen for myself this year. And so I'd like to close with a song, and it's a YouTube clip, and it's got the lyrics on it. It's by a man named John Waller, and I really like it. So read the words and listen to the song. And then I want to thank you once again for all of your support and your prayers throughout my years.